My name is Monica Gleberman, and you're listening to Silence on Set podcast. On today's podcast, we're talking to the cast of Dr. Death Season 2, which is based on the hit Wondery podcast, which follows Miracle Man Paolo Macchiarini, a charming surgeon renowned for his innovative operations. While investigative journalist Benita Alexander approaches him for a story, the line between personal and professional begins to blur, changing her life forever. As she learns how far Paolo will go to protect his secrets, a group of doctors halfway across the world make shocking discoveries of their own that call everything about Paolo into question. So, to start us off talking about the show, here's Ashley Madekwe, Luke Kirby, and Gustaf Hammarsten. How are you guys?
We're really good. How are you?
Yeah, great.
Good. I've interviewed all three of you for separate projects and told all three of you how much I love you. So I'm so excited to see all three of you together. This is great.
Thanks. We love you too.
You wait and see. The dynamic is special.
Who do you love the most?
Oh no, don't put me under that pressure. I want to start off.
No.
All three of you play doctors, and all three of you have your characters have different motives this season. So can you talk to me a little bit about the motives behind each of your characters this season?
Anna is motivated by ambition and a drive to really succeed and prove herself in a male dominated field. And yeah, she her ambition almost blinds her to the truth and facts of what's happening. What's she motivated by?
I think I'm motivated by my principles. You know, I'm guided by a sort of strong foundation of principle that is skeptical about things. And in some ways, I think that in some ways, the flaw of that is that it isolates Nathan from everyone else. You know, the gift of it is that he happens to be, right about everything.
Yeah.
But, he also, later in the season, he at some point has to admit that, he can't do everything by himself, in the face of a specific patient. He just can't. He needs people too.
And I think Anders she's motivated in the truth, in a sense. He's not really that ambitious as Anna, and he doesn't want to be skeptical because he knows Nathan, Luke's character, and he knows that he's skeptical about most of the things. So I think he and his problem is that if telling the truth in this case will be problems for his family, because he has this wife who stepped down from her legal career because they have this son with special needs. So telling the truth in this case for him it can become a huge personal problem. But I think that in the end he feels that he has to tell the truth about this guy, and they all want it. They do it for the sake of the patients, but for themselves as well, maybe, as all whistleblowers. I don't know.
Well, I think it's what you can live with, isn't it? Everyone's benchmark for what they can live with is different, and your Nathan gets there very quickly. You get there quicker than I do, but then eventually they all get to the same point. It's like we can't live with this.
No,
we can't live with this happening. We have to say something.
Yeah, and you will never regret if you actually told the truth. You can never really regret that. I don't know. Maybe if you talk to people, whistleblowers, and they did, they've been blacklisted all over and everything bad happened to them. But if you say, do you regret what you did?
No,
I haven't really heard anyone saying, no, because they had to do it, because
couldn't live with themselves otherwise.
No,
but they don't get rewarded for it.
No.
That's it is a huge sacrifice.
Yeah, but they get the reward is for themselves.
Yeah,
when they about to get into the grave.
That's what it's about.
Yeah. You can say I told the truth.
Told the truth.
I'm joking, but I'm serious.
For Luke, I wanted to start with you, but I'll ask all of you guys. For why do you think Nathan is so skeptical? Right? I mean, like within minutes, he's skeptical about what's going on. And then for the rest of you, when you join in and kind of become one force together, is that when you think it ultimately makes a change?
I mean, I think his immediate skepticism is born of two things. I think it's his principles are guided by sort of, the importance of empiricism and peer review. Like those are sort of virtues of the medical system and science that he abides by. I also think the good fortune is that he has a little bit of envy about Macchiarini's sort of smooth nature, and it sparks a kind of disdain in him that it is selfish, but actually serves to expose him in the long run.
For the three of you, once you guys come together, it really becomes like a force to be reckoned with. And like you said, you don't really get much. You kind of get punished, I guess, sort of in a way for telling the truth, but at least you guys told the truth. I wanted to ask the three of you how you feel about where your characters ended up. And then also that, I don't know, I'm sure you guys did research. Luke, I know you do a ton of research because I've interviewed you in the past for Lenny Bruce, but did you look up and see that he barely had any jail time? So I don't know if that affected any of, your acting in terms of how you wanted to play it, but it's just kind of crazy how it all ended.
I mean, I think that they're not guided by a wish for anything punitive. It's just that the information is out there, and that they speak up not because they want to sort of seek a kind of a justice where someone's getting their comeuppance. It's just that the institution needs to be awake to these possibilities so that it can move the brick forward. I mean, if it doesn't, eventually, if everyone just fell for his charms, eventually the whole foundation would crumble.
Yeah,
because it wasn't saving lives. Lives were not being saved. Lives were being destroyed. If we just let it carry on, eventually it would just all crumble. I mean,
and it's going to be Macchiarinis all over the world.
Yeah.
They're all everywhere. But so the only thing to stop them is to have the regulations and the institutions to nourish the monster.
Yeah, like not let them go from hospital to hospital.
Yeah, that's the problem. The hospital feel, well, this was bad, but now he's out of here. Let's move on and forget about it. That's horrible that you can do that. Yeah.
Well, the three of you did such a fantastic job. I would talk to you guys much longer if I could. You guys did such a great job in telling the story, and it must have been so difficult because obviously it's a real story. So to have to deal with that and the trauma and working that out as actors, I don't know how you guys do it, but you did such a great job. I watched the entire show. It's fantastic. And I just want to congratulate the three of you on amazing performances that I haven't seen from you guys before because this is all new. So I'm so excited to see you guys play these roles. And I'm just like, Emmys are coming. I'm like, cross my fingers for all three of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up next is showrunner, writer, and executive producer Ashley Hoban and executive producer Patrick Macmanus. How are you guys?
Great. How are you?
Yeah. Good. Patrick, you might remember I hosted the Twitter Spaces.
I was gonna say that, yeah, but I didn't know. But Silence on Set, that's the name of the
podcast. Yeah,
that's the name of the podcast. I haven't heard of it, but we were just saying like it's an awesome title.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's good
I was so
hear you
excited.
again.
Yeah, I was so excited to see you. So hi, both of you. So I'm gonna jump in because I I already wasted some of my time, but
no. We'll build it in.
Yeah, we'll add it in. But I wanted to ask both of you, I guess, but I'll start, Patrick, with you in particular. After season 1, what made you decide to want to continue telling the story? And then how did you determine who you wanted to find? Because I know that you're very good with being supportive of women especially with women directors. And I know you brought Ashley on to kind of step in and write for all of season 2. So what was in your head? What were you thinking? How did this happen?
So, usually when people ask me what was I thinking, there's a negative connotation to that. Mostly my mom and sister. But look, as it relates to between seasons 1 and season 2, when we were first talking about season 1 and I was trying to sell it, I had to come up with other ideas if there were to be multiple seasons, and discovered that there are, unfortunately, there's a list of stories to be told. And so we knew that there was more to be gleaned, and I desperately wanted, if this were to be a successful anthology, that the seasons would grow on each other and evolve from each other and live distinctly from one another. And part of, I think, the challenge in executing that as a single person is that you're always going to sort of be colored by your, the things that you like, right? And so I felt like if I was going to fulfill that idea of changing it every season, it had to be somebody new. What I will tell you is that Ashley, Michael, and I have worked with each other for the better part of a decade. There wasn't anyone else, and I knew it had nothing to do with the story. Honestly, it simply had to do with the fact that she and I had worked really closely with one another. She has carried my butt through the majority of my career, and this was absolutely her time, but not because I was giving her anything, because she earned it every step of the way. And I think that the proof is in the proverbial pudding right here, right? Which is that she has executed, along with her writers and her cast and her crew, a phenomenal season of TV that took what I hope we did well in season 1 and elevated it. That's my perspective. I'm biased, but there wasn't a moment of doubt that when she took over the reins, that she was going to do exactly what she did, which is to make one hell of an excellent season of TV.
This is why we love Patrick, right?
I know. This is why I love Patrick.
Why does everyone love Patrick? Who else wants to go?
We all do. We're just going to fight over you.
But I want to follow that up by saying that, everything that I've learned up until now about how to do this job has been from Patrick. And so it's really been, this journey has been incredible for me. And I couldn't have imagined getting here in a way that was so joyful, honestly.
Also, a good part of learning how to do something is how not to do something. So she learned a lot of that from me as well, just to be clear.
And Ashley, for you, I noticed it was really interesting for this season. I loved the choices that you made, that the directors made, which shout out to all women directors, and that Jennifer Morrison was back. But I was slightly obsessed with season 1, if you can't tell. So I was really excited, though, because the way that the story was told was very different, with the patients' names appearing and the number and what they were getting done. And that was very different stylistically than from season 1. So what choices did you make, and why were those choices put in there for you to really kind of make it stand out? Because it does, like Patrick said, really stands out on its own, but you do see the thread from season 1.
I'm glad that you see the thread, because that was important. It was important for us to take this concept of systemic failure in medicine and be able to go this season, go global with it, literally, by expanding it to places like Stockholm, where you expect, the highest quality of medicine. In terms of, I think the fact that Dr. Dunch in season 1 and Paolo Macchiarini in season 2 are so different, their stories are so different, it kind of necessitated a different way into it. We try to build, because he gets to such extreme places, it was important for us to show how he gets there in a way that it's taking the audience along that journey. So, it was a purposeful choice to have us meet him through Benita, where we're watching him kind of like, he's really kind of getting all of us, I think, at one point. He's kind of, he's a suave guy. He's very charming. And at the same time, we show, the beginning of his time at Karolinska with these colleagues, and they're sold, because it's an exciting opportunity to work on medicine that has that is groundbreaking and has a plethora of research behind it, which is another issue. You know, that leads us to the issue of self-policing of you know, these trials and these papers that these doctors, that's a whole different, we could talk about that all day.
I could literally talk to you guys and Patrick for like 2 hours long because I love it all. I wanted to ask both of you, you know, what is the most important thing that you're hoping to get out of this new season, but also overall, because there's obviously a common theme here. That's a major issue that we're facing. So what are you hoping, I guess, short term that they get out of, like fans get out of watching the season, and then long term, that's happening in this world, especially with hospitals and doctors?
Well, you know, one of the themes that I tried to really hit was individuals' voices having a huge impact in the world. And so I hope that what people take away from this season is not the idea of one bad doctor. It's the many, many more doctors that stood up and tried to hold this guy accountable, even though they at many times felt like their voices couldn't possibly make a difference. On Benita's side as well. I mean, Benita, she puts everything on the line. She really sacrifices everything in her career to tell the truth about this guy. And she can't possibly understand how big of an impact that sacrifice was to bringing him down. And it's the exact same thing on the whistleblower side. You know, they were obviously up against a huge institution with a lot of money and a lot of influence, and they chose to do the right thing anyway. And that decision in that report had a bigger influence. Those individual voices had a bigger influence than they could have possibly imagined. So that's kind of what I hope people take away from, honestly, the season and the show as a whole.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What she said.
Well, I loved it so much. I think you guys did such a fantastic job. So congratulations. I was very upset, by the way, that he got a very short amount of time in prison, because I did look it up. So it was like 3.5 years.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, basically.
Oh,
and
wow.
yes. And so he has to report to prison now. So we will wait and see if he does that.
Yeah, so very angry about that, but love the show. You guys did a fantastic job. You know how much, Patrick, I love you. Ashley, I love you just as much. You did such a great job.
Thank you so much. That's very kind.
We got to do this again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I know. We have to do it again longer, so I could ask more questions.
Sounds like a plan. Have a wonderful holiday. Thank you.
Thank you. You too, and thank you guys so much for bringing such a great season.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hope you guys enjoyed listening to the cast of Dr. Death talk about what it was like for season 2, specifically for their characters, and as well as the health system as a whole, specifically referring to the quote, Miracle Man, and how these things happen. Dr. Death will premiere on Peacock on December 21st, 2023, so make sure you go and check it out. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you're updated on all of our latest podcasts, and head over to our YouTube channel, hit subscribe so you're updated on all of our video content.